students. This is session 19 of the third chapter. So, now atrial systole completed, which we summarized as the contraction of the atria, which lasts about 0.1 seconds. This causes the 30% filling of the ventricles. Now this wave of contraction from SA node to AV node, the two bundle of his, that into the Purkinje fibers and that into the walls of the ventricle. Now the two ventricles simultaneously contract. This contraction of the ventricles, ventricles is named to be the ventricular systole. The contraction of the two ventricles is named to be the ventricular systole. This lasts for 0.3 seconds. You can see 0.3 seconds. This ventricular systole increases the pressure. When contraction takes place naturally, the pressure increases. This pressure, what causes the closure of the AV valves, atrioventricular valves. What are atrioventricular valves? Bicuspid and tricuspid. Bicuspid between left atrium and left ventricle, tricuspid between right atria and right ventricle. Bicuspid is also named to be the mitral valve. Why? As the pressure increases, blood can flow anywhere. In order to prevent the backward flow, the bicuspid and tricuspid valves close. This allows the simultaneously the semilunar valves of the pulmonary aortic valve between the pulmonary trunk and the right ventricle, left systemic aortic valve between left systemic and left ventricle what open. Then this causes the blood pumping from the ventricles into aortic arches. So this contraction of the ventricle is named to be the ventricular systole, which lasts about 0.3 seconds. This contraction causes the closure of the AV valves. The closure of the AV valve produces the first heart sound, which is said to be the lub. Lub is a heart sound with the what is called generated for a long period. 0.15 seconds it lasts for. When it is a long period, so it is with a low pitch. It's what we see the heart sound. First heart sound is the lub, which is for a longer duration. And it is due to closure of AV valve during ventricular systole. So you are definitely asked such type of question. Lub is a sound. There are two heart sounds, lub and dup. Lub is the first heart sound produced during ventricular systole due to the closure of AV valves. When the AV valves close, that is due to the ventricular systole, now the atria would relax. Ventricles are, when the pressure increases further, the atria relax. Now this increased pressure closes the AV valves and open the semilunar valves. This opening of the semilunar valves causes the flow of the blood from the right ventricle and the left ventricle through semilunar valves. Right ventricle into the pulmonary trunk, left ventricle into left systemic arch, the blood pumped forcibly. Now the ventricles relax. Now the ventricles relax. Ventricular relaxation is what name it to be the diastole. Diastole. The ventricles relax is named to be the ventricular diastole. It is a cardiac diastole. And it is lasts for 0.4 seconds. You can see here ventricular diastole lasts for 0.4 seconds. As the ventricles relax, the pressure builds up in the aortic arches. As the ventricles relax, the pressure builds in the aortic arches. Look at here. Relaxed ventricles cause the pressure further increases in the aortic arches. The increased pressure in the pulmonary trunk and left systemic aortic arch further increasing in the, when the pressure decreases in the ventricle, pressure increases in the aortic arches. Increasing in the aortic arches, the pressure increase in the aortic arches closes the semilunar valve. The half moon shaped valve or semilunar valves are what closed. So this closure of the semilunar valves produces the second heart sound. Second heart sound, which is referred to as the dup. Dup is the second heart sound, and it is for a short period. When something is short period with a high pitch. So now the second heart sound is the dup, produced during the ventricular diastole, and it is due to the closure of dup is the sound. Dup is the sound produced due to the closure of semilunar valves. So now we'll see the differences between the lub and dup. Look at here. Lub and dup. Lub is the first heart sound. Lub is the first heart sound. You better make a note. Dup is the second heart sound. Next, lub is produced during ventricular systole. It is produced during a ventricular systole. Lub is produced during a ventricular systole. Look at here, lub, ventricular systole. Whereas the dup is a diastole phase, ventricular diastole. Next, apart from that, we do discuss the lub is produced due to closure of AV valves. I repeat, already we discussed. The closure of AV valves produce the first heart sound, whereas dup produced due to closure of semilunar valves. And this is for a long duration 0.15 seconds. Lub is for long duration, whereas the dub is for short duration. Long duration and short duration. Short duration is what we see. So this is a tabular information. I repeat, the lub and dub sounds. Lub is the sound which is the first heart sound. Dub is the second heart sound. Lub is produced during the ventricular systole, whereas dub ventricular diastole. Lub produced due to closure of AV valves, dub due to closure of semilunar valves, and lub is for a longer duration 0.15 seconds, whereas dub for 0.1 second short duration. So this is what we do discuss. And you might have seen when this electrical activity heart mechanism is measured by a device named to be the ECG, electrocardiogram, ECG. Certain times we find that there is a murmuring, lub, or else the isoelectric line. What we see in the electrocardiogram, the wave that is moving is named to be the isoelectric line. This isoelectric line may not be with the continuous, but else there is a gap. Which means the point to remember, if the bicuspid, tricuspid valves are damaged, there is a discontinuity. The quality of lub and dub should be rhythmically takes place. There should not be any gap. But certain times due to the damage to the bicuspid, tricuspid, what happens? There is a defect in the lub sound. Why? Why the lub sound is produced? Due to closure of the semilunar valves. Due to closure of the AV valves in the sense bicuspid and tricuspid, if those are damaged, the quality of the first heart sound is disturbed. The same way, if the injury takes place to the semilunar valve, the dub sound, second heart sound, the quality changes, and such is what name it to be the lub, or else the heart murmuring. Murmuring is nothing but lub. Likewise, you see there is a damage to the semilunar valves results in a heart murmuring, where the sound produced as lub. Likewise, basically this happened to be takes place in a rheumatic heart fever. It can be seen, or else in the syphilis, a bacterial infection. So that is what, if they are normal, that is 72 beats per minute, and if these beats are increased, it is that is per a minute, the number of beats should be 72. So that is a normal status. But if the number of the heartbeats are increased, which is said to be the tachycardia in the sense increasing, abnormal increasing in the number of the heartbeats. And the another one is the bradycardia, decreasing in the number of the heartbeats is a bradycardia. That's what we do discuss. Yes. Next, so here the diagrammatically you can understand what actually all this. So cardiac cycle is nothing but the series of events which involve the beginning of the heartbeat to the beginning of the next heartbeat events are what name it to be the cyclic cardiac cycle, which involve atriolar systole, ventricular systole, ventricular diastole. The point to remember, when ventricles relax, when ventricles relax, the aortic arches undergo pressure. Further relaxation of the ventricles further decrease in the pressure of the ventricle also causes the relaxation of the atria. That's the reason why ventricular diastole is also named to be the joint diastole, or else it is the atrioventricular diastole. I repeat, as the ventricular systole takes place, the ventricles next come to the relaxed position, which is the ventricular diastole, during which the pressure in the ventricles relax, but pressure in the aortic arches increase. Then the pressure in the aortic arches closes the semilunar valve, which results in the second heart sound up. Later, the blood pumped from the aortic arches into different parts. Pulmonary aortic arch, which is run forward and bifurcated and pump the blood into the two lungs. Whereas the left systemic aortic arch, which runs forward, basically the left systemic aortic arch, which is runs forward, which is said to be ascending aorta. Next, arch the aorta. And then it is said to be the descending aorta. This aorta is considered to be the largest blood vessels. This is how it supplies the blood to the different parts. So, when the ventricles relax, the pressure increases in the aortic arch, so the blood is pumped. And the semilunar valves are closed such that it is pumped to different parts. Simultaneously, the ventricles further relax. This further decline in the pressure in the ventricle causes the atria also in a relaxed state. So, that is a atrioventricular diastole or joint diastole, during which the AV valves open. So, with high pressure, the blood pumped into different parts during the ventricular diastole. Due to the pressure in the aortic arches, furtherly the ventricles relax and simultaneously atria relax, so the AV valves open. Now from the different parts, again the blood started pumping into the atria to ventricles, which fills about 70% of the ventricles are filled, which is what name it to be the diastole phase. So that's the reason why we say at the atriolar systole, 30%, that is atriolar systole accounts for 30% of the filling of the ventricle. Then does it mean that its capacity only 30%? No. In a relaxed state, the remaining 70% takes place. This is how it starts with the contraction, and it lead to atriolar systole is the beginning, ventricular systole, ventricular diastole. This is completely one heartbeat. So, the series of events, what are the events involved? Atriolar systole, ventricular systole, ventricular diastole. So, collectively, it is completed in 0.1, 0.3, 0.4. So, collectively, cardiac cycle is completed in a 0.8 seconds. So, biventricular diastole, one more event starts, one more cardiac cycle. That is what the series of events that involve the beginning of one cardiac, one heartbeat to that of, to the next beginning of the heartbeat is what name it to be the cardiac cycle, which is with the atriolar systole, ventricular diastole. Atriolar systole 0.1 second, and this is the during which the blood from the atria pumped into the ventricles. It lasts about 0.1 second. It accounts for 30% of the filling of the ventricles. Then How does it takes place? We discussed that the SAN which generates the action potential. As the action potential generated, the wave of contraction reaches to the both the atria contract. So 30% of the filling of the ventricles. Now, then the wave of contraction from SA node reach to AV node to bundle of fish into Purkinje fiber, then into walls of the ventricles. Then two ventricles simultaneously contract. Now, this contraction of the ventricles is named to be the ventricular systole, which is lost about 0.3 seconds. This contraction of the ventricles increases the pressure such that it closes the AV valves, atrioventricular valve or bicuspid tricuspid valve. This closure of the AV valve produces the first heart sound named to be the lub, which is for long period during the ventricular systole. Next, now the ventricles relax. So here what we find is AVN is sending the action potential generated in the SA node. Is it right or not? But SA node generate action potential on its own. Is it that the AVN generates? No, it receives from SAN. That's the reason why SAN is a pacemaker, AVN is the pace setter or relay point. Now the ventricles relax. Relaxation of the ventricles is the ventricular diastole, in which the two ventricles relax, pressure decreases. Then the aortic arches, the closure of the AV valves also opens in the ventricular systole, the closure of AV valve opens also the semilunar valve. So the blood from the ventricles pumped into the aortic arches. Then pressure builds in the aortic arches. This closes the semilunar valves, and closure of the semilunar valves during the ventricular diastole, the second heartbeat takes place, that is the DUP, which is due to the closure of the semilunar valves, and it lasts for about 0.4 seconds. Further relaxation of the ventricle also relaxes the atria. That's the reason why the ventricular diastole is the atrioventricular diastole. So the AV valves open and blood started filling into the ventricles, which is about 70%. This series of events is what we name it as a cardiac cycle. Now, the point to recall is, the point to discuss here is cardiac output. One more event in the mechanism of the heart mechanism, cardiac output can be written as in terms of the equation, the stroke volume into number of beats per minute. Stroke volume into number of beats per minute. Look at here. Cardiac output. What is the definition of the cardiac output? It is defined as the amount of the blood pumped out from each ventricle per minute is what name it to be the cardiac output. I repeat, cardiac output in the sense the amount of the 5 liters of the blood that is pumped out from ventricles in a minute of time period, right? So which can be in terms of the equation, cardiac output is equal to stroke volume and the number of beats per minute. How to define the stroke volume? Stroke volume in the sense the amount of the blood that is pumped out from each ventricle is the stroke volume. The amount of the blood pumped out by ventricle is the stroke volume. If this is calculated per 1 minute, that becomes the cardiac output. What do you mean by cardiac output? That is the amount of the blood pumped out from a heart per minute. Whether entire the blood is pumping out or not, this is the capacity. And keep in mind, humans have the capacity to alter the stroke volume as well as the number of the heartbeats. For suppose as if now right in a standing position, my number of the heartbeats will be definitely between 70 to 80, which means at an average 72, or else likewise. But if I start running, if I start climbing the stairs, if I start exercise, if I lift something, definitely my number of the heartbeat will increase. What does it indicate? It indicates that humans have an ability of altering their stroke volume as well as the number of the heartbeat, and thereby cardiac output also varies. So what I said is, stroke volume in the sense the amount of the blood pumped out by ventricle, each ventricle per a beat is what name it to be the stroke volume, which is nothing but 70 ml per a beat. 70 ml per a beat. Next, the number of beats per a minute. How many we have seen? 70 to 80. At an average 72. Let's calculate number of the beats per minute. If it is 72, 72 into 70, 7 2s of 14, 7 7s of 49 plus 1, 50. So 5040 ml. What does it mean by 5040? 5040 milliliters, nothing but 5 liters of the blood, means per a minute entire body parts from which the blood is collected and it is pumped to different organs by the heart. That's what the cardiac output. Got my point what I am saying? The cardiac output in the sense the amount of the blood pumped out by the ventricles per minute of a time, that can be denoted as cardiac output is equal to stroke volume into number of beats per a minute. Stroke volume is the amount of the blood pumped out by ventricle per a beat, and the number of beats per minute are when calculated, it results in cardiac output. So stroke volume is 70 ml into 72, which will be 5040. For suppose if an individual heartbeats are 80, if I say, come on, calculate what is the cardiac output. I repeat, if an individual heartbeat is 80 per a minute, what is the cardiac output? 70 into 80 will be 5600 milliliter. Is it possible? Why not? If a person is under exercise or executing exercise, there is a work to the body when compared with that of rather than the normal status. Yes, it can be. If it is the number of the beats are, so if the number of beats given, you can calculate cardiac output. If a cardiac output is given as 6300 milliliter, then what is the number of the heartbeats? It is none other than 90. 70 into 90. 7 9s are 63. 6300 milliliter. Now you may raise a doubt. Sir, how does it possible when we are with the 5000 to 6000 milliliters only? It is that the number of times it is pumped out. It doesn't mean that the blood volume increases. Hemostasis is always maintained. That's what we see. Stroke volume can be written as stroke volume is. This is the most important point, and keep in mind in the entrance examination you are going to be expected such type of questions. Stroke volume can be written as an equation. End diastolic volume minus end systolic volume. This is an equation. Stroke volume is equal to, and nothing something different in this, that I will explain very simple manner. If you concentrate more, that can be easily understand. Stroke volume. What do you mean by stroke volume? The amount of the blood that is pumped out of the ventricle is the stroke volume. For suppose, if I say it is an expenditure by a heart, okay? So, how do you say how much is spent? You can also say this: how much is received and how much is left is nothing but how much is sent out. If your earnings are known and whatever you are left, earnings minus what you are left is nothing but what you spend. Whatever the amount of volume entered and minus what is left is nothing but the amount that is pumped out. Is it right or not? End diastolic volume, the amount of the volume of the blood that is remain in the ventricle after diastole, minus the amount of the volume that is by diastole it reaches into the ventricle, minus the volume of the blood that remain in the ventricle after systole, means that is pumped. That's what stroke volume is equal to EDV minus ESV. Stroke volume is equal to end diastolic volume minus end systolic volume. Thank you.